Hello, everyone. Welcome. Great to see you all here. I hope everyone can hear me okay. Um, what we're asking everyone to do is make sure everyone's muted and then to put any questions that you have in the chat. At the end of this session, we'll probably get done early too. I don't think it's going to last an entire hour. Um, but at the end, we do open it up for where you can unmute and turn your video on or off, and ask us questions directly there as well. And we'll be answering as many questions as we can in the chat throughout the session. And so we're going to get started. Again, thank you so much for attending. So, crossing the finish line, this workshop is here for you to all learn how to file either your thesis, your dissertation, or if you're a master's plan 2 or MFA student, on how you actually graduate and file all of these required documents. So welcome to this. So this is our team. Not all of us are here on the call, but most of us are. We're the academic services team in the Office of Graduate Studies at the University of California, Davis. My name is Sarah Hamid. I've been a senior academic advisor here in the Office of Graduate Studies for almost 5 years, 4.5 about. Prior to that, I've worked on campus in various roles. I've been on campus for approximately 15 years. So it's good to all have you here, and I love working in graduate studies. Sarah Driver is our Director of Advising. She is not on this call today, but she's always here, and she's our supervisor. We also have Jaiwen Zhang on our call today. She is helping out in the chat, and she's a student services specialist. Adair is also a student service specialist. I'm not sure if he's on the call, but if he is, he's going to be helping out in the chat as well. And then we have Sam Dewsteker. I believe she is on this call and she
I
is
am.
helping
I'm right
out.
here.
Thanks,
So my
Sam.
name is Samantha Dewseeker. I'm a senior academic advisor as well. I'm one of the advisors that you may have made appointments with in the past or that you may have opportunity to meet, just like Sarah as well as Brittany. I've been on campus for about 10 years now. And we will be in the chat answering questions as well as providing links and resources for any times that you feel like you have any particular questions. As always, if you have any very specific, detailed information regarding your filing process, the best way to get those questions answered is not necessarily in the chat, but rather an appointment. And we have a ton of appointments open regularly throughout the quarter. So I dropped the appointment link in the chat for you to address that. It's a half-hour time block where if there's any nuances or particular things that you feel like are a little bit more detailed than what we'll be answering broadly today, definitely make an appointment in our system and chat with us. We'd love to meet with you.
Okay, thank you so much, Sam. Okay, so now we will move on to our next slide. Oh, lastly, Brittany Dinelli. She is our newest senior academic advisor. Brittany is not with us today. Brittany is at a conference, but Brittany is also one of our senior academic advisors on her team. So this is our team. Welcome, welcome. So the next slide is our agenda. So I will be going over the various bullet points here. Mainly what we're here to do is let you know how to file so that you can graduate. Which is a really big deal. So when do I file? We're going to talk about our dates and deadlines. We're going to talk about our eligibility of when you're eligible to file and graduate. I am going to use the terms filing and graduating interchangeably because they both kind of mean the same thing. So when you file to graduate, you're graduating, and we'll get into more of that later. We're going to talk about required registration. And we're going to talk about how do I file, the different steps. We're going to break this workshop up into kind of two sections, and then at the end, there'll be more information for everyone here on the call. But we're going to talk primarily about if you're a PhD student or you're a master's thesis student on how to file. And then we're going to have a couple of slides dedicated to any students here on the call that are maybe a master's plan 2 student. So you're the students that take an exam at the end, you don't file a thesis, or if we have any MFA students. The steps to file are a little bit different between the two groups. So we're going to be breaking that all up as well. We're going to talk about GradSphere, which is our new online system where you submit all of your graduation and filing required documents. We're going to go over that. We're also going to talk what happens after you file. We're going to go over commencement, which takes place in 2025. And then we are also going to open it up for any questions that you all may have that are maybe even outside of the chat. So when do I file eligibility and deadlines? So these are upcoming deadlines, and we're pretty strict in general about our submission deadlines. Now, with GradSphere in play, which is our brand new kind of online system of where you submit everything, sometimes there can be hiccups and things that happen where we can work with the student if you reach out to us. But in general, we are pretty strict with our submissions deadlines because we get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students submitting all of their documents either before this deadline or on the actual day. So I'll go over these dates, but one thing to remember is that so we have 3 upcoming submission deadlines. Our next one is going to be December 13th. That's for the fall quarter. We have March 21st, that's for winter. And then we have our last deadline, which is June 12th, and that's for the spring quarter. Whatever deadline you do choose, the main thing to remember is that you can submit everything prior to the deadline. So a lot of students will start submitting maybe in November, early December. That's completely fine. But the majority of our students do submit within, I would say, definitely the week of our filing. That's really a heavy time when students are submitting, but you can also submit on the actual submission deadline. So if you were a student and you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot get all of my things gathered and I'm not going to submit until actually on December 13th, that's totally fine. Just remember that we have a new pretty strict requirement that we shut this down at 5 p.m. So Pacific Standard Time, so California time, 5 p.m. So if you're on the East Coast, you have to take that into consideration and make sure that you're submitting everything at 5 p.m. Pacific time. That's a new rule that we have just because it caused a lot of confusion when we allowed students to file up until midnight. And so we are trying to really hold the line with our new deadline of 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so many students file on the actual deadline day. It is completely acceptable for you to do that up until 5 p.m. of that day. And we'll go over kind of that process in a bit. But the submission deadline, so let's say you're a student that's looking to submit on December 13th. Remember that the degree awarded date that will show up on the conferral letter we give you, and then also your diploma, it will say December 13th, 2024. So you will be a fall student, a fall graduating student. The requirement is that if you want to submit by our December 13th deadline, you have to either be enrolled right now in the fall quarter in some type of units. Most of you are probably full-time, or you have to be on an approved filing fee for the fall quarter 2024. We're not going to go too much into filing fee. Not a lot of students go on this. Filing fee is not required in order to graduate or to submit your documents to us. Most of our students are going to be enrolled in some type of units, either some units, 12 units is the majority of what you are in. But you have to be actively enrolled in something for the fall quarter if you want to submit on December 13th. So this captures students, like let's say there's a student that's just hasn't been enrolled in a couple of quarters for whatever reason. And all of a sudden the student's like, oh, I want to graduate. I'm going to submit on December 13th. We go in and check every student that's submitting to make sure that you're actually registered in that quarter in some type of units, or you're on an approved filing fee status, which we'll talk about in a couple of slides later. So just remember, whatever submission deadline you want to submit by, you have to be enrolled in that quarter or on approved filing fee for that term as well. As this slide mentions, really important to remember the 5 p.m. So 5 p.m. on December 13th is the latest that we can receive your submission and all your paperwork. again, we have the March 21st deadline coming up for winter quarter, and then we have the June 12th deadline for spring. And now I'm going to move on to the next slide. So the graduation eligibility. So these are things that we are checking as well, but just for your information so that you can prepare properly when you want to file or graduate, you want to make sure that you've advanced to candidacy. So every single student before they can graduate and file, whether you're a PhD student or you're a master's student, every single student has to have advanced to candidacy. Graduate Studies is the office that approves your candidacy. Some of you may not remember filing this, but you can ask your coordinator of your program or you can ask us. Majority of you have, and GradSphere should hopefully pick it up. If not, we'll talk more about that later. But you just want to make sure, as you know, your own responsible self to graduate, every single student has to advance to candidacy. If you haven't already, you still have time. Um, you can still submit your candidacy during the quarter that you are going to graduate. We prefer to get it the quarter before, but it's fine if you haven't done that yet. And if you're not sure, reach out to us or contact your program coordinator in your program to see and make sure that you've advanced to candidacy. And again, you still have time if you haven't yet and you're trying to make that December 13th deadline. Another eligibility requirement that we make sure is that you're registered. So if you're trying to submit everything by December 13th, if you submit on December 10th, we're going to make sure, are you registered in the fall? Are you registered in at least some units? Or are you on an approved filing fee? Filing fee was due by the first day of instruction. So if you're thinking that you still want to go on filing fee for the fall quarter, that deadline is passed. And we'll talk more about that in a couple of slides forward. Master's students, you have to make sure that you've passed all the required courses for your program and all the courses that are listed on your candidacy that you've submitted with us. So master's students need to make sure that all their courses have been passed properly with their program requirements. Every student on this call, in order to graduate, has to have a cumulative GPA of a 3.0 or above in order to graduate. We do look at that. And so the cumulative GPA has to be at a 3.0 or higher. You want to make sure that any I grades, so those are incomplete, or NG grades are resolved if they are pertaining to any courses that are required for you to graduate with your program. So you want to make sure that you get any I or NG grades resolved. All committee members have been approved on your candidacy. So if you're a thesis or a PhD student, when you submit that candidacy form to us, you're indicating on there who are your committee members. And so you just want to make sure that those are still the same committee members. And then doctoral students in Plan A or C will have to defend and do like a final exam at the end and let us know that has been passed properly. The program will have to let us know. Most of our students are Plan B PhD students, which means you don't have this extra final defense that you have to take. If you're not sure what plan you are, A, B, or C, you can talk to your program about that. The majority of you are on a plan B, and so we're not really looking for that final exam report, that final defense report. Some student responsibilities, especially if you're a PhD or a thesis student, you want to make sure that you give all of your committee members enough time to read and comment on your last kind of version of your thesis or dissertation. The requirement is at least 4 weeks. You have to make sure that you're really transparent and you communicate a timeline with your committee so that they're aware of when you want to file and graduate and the deadline that you're looking at so that they can get all of their comments into you in time. And just make sure if there's any thesis or PhD students on this call, you want to look back on your candidacy and make sure your committee members still the same presently today. If they've changed, then we have to make sure that you have an approved reconstitution. A reconstitution is for any student that wants to change a committee member, and you can still submit that now. And we will reach out to you if your committee members don't match when you do file, but it's good for you to check that now if you're trying to make the December 13th, because you have plenty of time to submit a reconstitution if your committee members have changed since you've advanced. So required registration, I know I keep kind of hammering in this point, but it's a pretty important one. Most of our students are always registered. They're doing the right thing, or they're on a filing fee. But sometimes we'll get students that submit their thesis and dissertation and they haven't been registered for like several quarters. So that can be an issue. So just make sure that you're aware of that. Again, the filing fee, I think we're going to maybe do some workshops on the topic of filing fee. Again, filing fee is for a very, very small group of our students. It's a very minimal group that actually qualify for filing fee. If you're wanting to be on filing fee for the fall, you can't. It's already been passed. It's always due by the first day of instruction. You could maybe think about if you want to submit your dissertation in the winter. So let's say you can't submit everything by our December 13th deadline, but you're looking for the March one, the March 21st one, first one. If you're interested in, you don't want to be registered for the winter quarter, for an example, but you think that you could do filing fee, you just have to make sure that you submit all of your filing fee application to us by the first day of instruction of the quarter that you want to file in. So that would be January 6th if you're looking to be on filing fee for winter quarter. And basically, any student that wants to go on filing fee has to show and prove to us within the application and signatures from all our committee members that you're basically done with everything. You're just making minor edits, gathering your paperwork. And so it tends to be just a very small group of students that are actually even qualified to be on filing fee. And so most of our students, as I've mentioned before, are registered in units when they want to file. So how do I file? Now I'm going to be talking more about the filing process. So this section here, these next couple of slides are for all PhD students and thesis students. If you're a master's plan 2 or an MFA, just wait, for several slides and we'll talk specifically about what you need to submit. And so these next sections are only for students that are submitting their dissertation or thesis. So there's 2 steps to file and graduate. The approved thesis or dissertation to ProQuest ETD. If you're not sure what ProQuest ETD is, there's a link on our website. We can put it in the chat. But this is an online system where you submit that final version of your thesis or dissertation. You don't email the final dissertation or thesis to us. You actually submit it into ProQuest ETD. So you could start creating your account on there now. They do ask you a lot of questions. It doesn't take too long, but you could always create that account now. And then when you're ready and you have that final version of your thesis or dissertation, that's where you're going to be uploading that. We have access to ProQuest ETD, and that's where we actually go in. Once you've submitted it there, that's where we go in and we look at that final version. And we let you know if we find any formatting edits or things that you need to change. And at that point, that's probably the last thing that you want to hear about are potential changes. Just to reassure you, 2 things on that. So when you submit your dissertation and thesis into ProQuest ETD, even if you do it on the 13th of December, on that final day, if we find any edits, you've still made the deadline, and I'll probably go into this more in the future slides. But just know that we're just looking for very minor formatting edits. And I'll go over what those common ones are. But that's where we're going to be looking. We go one by one. Most of the time we don't find any edits, but if we do, we let you know. You still made the deadline. You make those changes and then we approve it. And I'll talk more about some of the common formatting edits that we do see. But just know that that's where that final dissertation and thesis goes, is into ProQuest ETD, and that has to be done by December 13th if you're doing that deadline at 5 p.m. The second step is that you have to upload all the required paperwork into GradSphere, including your signed title page. And so we're going to go over what GradSphere actually looks like inside of GradSphere so that you're not completely blindsided by all of the steps in there. But you do have to go into GradSphere, and that's where you're going to be uploading a bunch of paperwork, including that signed title page, which I'll go over as well. So these are the two steps to file and graduate. As a student, you are responsible to complete these two steps. ProQuest is one, GradSphere is the other, um, by 5 p.m. of whatever deadline that you're choosing. So this is just kind of an overview of the required paperwork that you're going to be submitting and gathering and putting into GradSphere. I'm going to go into GradSphere and actually show you kind of more in detail what this all looks like, but this is just a quick overview. Um, every thesis and PhD student needs to submit a signed title page into ProQuest, probably the most important document, as it's going to be signed off by all of your committee members. We're going to also be asking for a copy of your abstract, and we're going to have you indicate what release or embargo you have decided upon for your thesis or dissertation. I'll go into more of that later. We also ask for future contact information. If you're a PhD student only, there is a survey that we want you to take. You get a 4-digit code at the end. You just have to type that code into GradSphere. There's also another survey, the NSF survey, that's only for PhD students. You just have to show proof of completion. So you upload the certificate into GradSphere. If you have a designated emphasis, we need that completion report. And if you're a Plan A or C student, we need your chair or your coordinator to upload that proof of final exam that you passed it. So that's just kind of an overview. And now after I talk about the title page, we'll go into GradSphere and you can actually see more of what it looks like. We have this template of the title page on our website. But this is going to be good for you to start kind of gathering because it is a really important one. It's one of the most important ones because you're going to use this template and create your own title page so that your committee members can sign. So each member has to sign this. And if we don't have this, we can't push things forward to graduate you. And so you want to make sure that you get every single committee member to sign off on this title page that you'll create, and then they can either sign it with a pen or they could digitally sign it, whatever's easiest for you to gather those signatures. And then you're going to be uploading this signed title page into GradSphere. As I mentioned before, it's probably one of the most important documents is that signed title page. And we make sure that all of the committee members that have signed it match your candidacy form that we have on file. And so you're going to be uploading the signed title page into GradSphere. You're going to also make a duplicate title page that looks exactly like the one where your members sign it. The unsigned one, though, where there will be no signatures, it will list their names. The unsigned title page is going to serve as the very first page of your thesis or dissertation. It will be Roman numeral page number 1 of your thesis or dissertation. It will not include the signatures. So the one with the signatures, you're going to upload into GradSphere. The one without the signatures will serve as the very first page of either your thesis or dissertation. So when we go into ProQuest and look at your final version of your thesis or dissertation, the very first page we should see is your unsigned title page, and it will be Roman numeral page number 1. So this is what GradSphere looks like. We're going to be putting a link into the chat on what the link is for GradSphere. But here's GradSphere. And when you log into GradSphere, you're going to go under degree completion and you're going to click on filing process. So when you click on filing process, this page is going to come up and you're going to input your student ID. And when you do that, then a lot of these things will auto-populate for you. You're going to be, the degree pathway should show up. Most of you are going to be a Plan B. The intended graduation quarter, the drop-down menu, that will obviously change to fall of 2024 or whatever one you choose. The candidacy check-in, most of you submitted your candidacy probably prior to GradSphere existence. So it might not pick it up. So you want to make sure that you say yes to this. And then it's going to ask you, did you submit your ProQuest yet? You want to say yes. If you say no, you can't move forward. So you want to say yes. And you want to make sure that prior to going into grad sphere that you have actually uploaded your thesis and dissertation to ProQuest, so that you don't forget that step. So this is the list now of where you're going to be uploading documents into grad sphere. As you can see, the signed title page, you're going to upload that into grad sphere. You just click the upload button. You're going to upload your abstract. You're going to type in the 4-digit code of the Graduate Studies Exit Survey, and then you're going to upload the certificate of completion here. If you have a DE, a designated emphasis, you should know if you have one. Not many students do, but if you do, there has to be a designated emphasis final report that you're going to upload here. And then if you're a plan A or a plan C, you have that final report. You want to make sure that your chair of your committee or someone uploads that final report to verify that you've passed that final exam. The next section asks about the graduate academic certificate. Most of you probably don't have this. If you've never heard of it, I mean, majority are going to say I do not. You should know if you have one. Most of you won't. You want to gather the emails of your committee members because you'll put in the emails of your committee members and then it will auto-populate their names and their titles. So you want to make sure you know who your members are of your thesis or dissertation committee. And then the embargo, you want to find out and have this ready as well. This is important that it should match in ProQuest. So when you're in ProQuest, you have to indicate if you're going to have an embargo period or you're going to do an immediate release. This is something you should be talking about with your major professor. Most of you will probably do immediate release. Some of you might have an embargo period based on, sensitive information, or maybe some of you might be publishing. It just depends on your unique situation. Either way, whatever you decide, if it's an immediate release or you will have an embargo period, you're going to have to indicate on GradSphere and it needs to match whatever you say in ProQuest as well. If you have no idea what you're doing with this yet, it's okay. You have time to discuss with your major professor on what you plan to do. Future contact information, that's just for alumni information. And then when you get to the bottom of this, you're going to click review, but then you also have to click submit when you're actually finished. So if you don't click submit, it doesn't go anywhere to us. It just sits there. So you want to make sure you click review and then submit. So what to expect next? So successful submission, you should see your application gets assigned to the next person. So either the chair or your major professor for review. So this is GradSphere I'm talking about right now. When you click submit in GradSphere, you're done. You've done your part. But then it electronically gets routed to more people for them to sign off on this to eventually get to grad studies to us. So we want you to take personal responsibility throughout this. GradSphere is still relatively new for people. Once you submit it, it will electronically move on to the next person, either the chair of your committee or a grad advisor within your group. And you want to make sure that whoever it moves to next, you can check the progress of this when you log back into GradSphere. You want to make sure that you're helping us and everyone around you to remind your faculty members to go in to approve it. Because if they don't go in and approve it after you, it kind of gets stuck and delayed. And we see this happening so often. We're reminding professors that they have a responsibility to go in and improve these. But again, they forget. And so because GradSphere is still relatively new, we're asking you as well, because this is ultimately your graduation file in GradSphere, just to help us remind them that they will also have to be approving this in GradSphere. When you log back into GradSphere maybe, and you're trying to figure out what stage it's at, expect about a 2 to 3 week turnaround time during the peak filing time. So when you submit everything into ProQuest and GradSphere, after that is a completely manual process pretty much on our end. And we have one phenomenal person basically in charge of this, Jawin. She's on the call right now, and she has to go through everything one by one. Every single dissertation and thesis one by one in ProQuest, every single sphere submission one by one. And this takes time. And you might get anxious thinking, oh gosh, is everything okay? I haven't heard from them. Just know that if you've submitted everything in GradSphere and in ProQuest, you're good to go. If we find edits or we contact you after our deadline, like let's say on December 20th, and we find something, you're still fine. You still made the deadline. The only denial we have in this particular process is if you completely miss our deadline and you come to us and say on January 1st, oh, I really wanted to submit. Can you still take me for December 13th? That'd be the only no I think that we would ever say to you. Otherwise, we work with the student. And as long as you've submitted everything and you've done those two steps by our deadline at 5 p.m., you're good to go. It just takes a while for us to give you that confirmation email with the conferral letter because it is a one by one situation and it's very manual and we have one phenomenal, amazing person doing this. So just rest assured that if you've submitted everything, we'll approve it. We'll be contacting you within 2 to 3 weeks. Um, I mentioned this earlier, the publishing. We have some information on our website. Definitely talk this over with your major professor. And then we also have like an amazing copyright professional, Michael. He works in the Shields Library. If you have more complex situations or questions that really go deep into the copyright topic, we definitely advise you to contact Michael directly because he's even hosted copyright and publishing webinars. He's really like, the main person to go to if it's something kind of complex. Um, I'm going to quick pause because we're going to shift over, but I'm going to just quick grab some water. Um, and I'm going to make sure that my team isn't telling me that I forgot something. I don't think so.
Nope, you're doing great, Sarah. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you.
And keep in mind, everybody, if you're asking questions in the chat, we're trying to get to them as quickly as we can. So,
Are there any main questions that we should be answering quickly right now?
a lot of it is about turnover of when people will file and when they'll get
Okay,
their
their conferral
conferral
letter.
letters back. So if you want to take a minute to reiterate
Sure.
that, that would be great.
Yeah, so it depends on the timing, and it depends on how many students are filing. But in general, every filing deadline we have, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students that file. The closer we get to the deadline, the more submissions we're receiving. And so if you're filing like a month prior or even 3 weeks prior, the turnaround time for Xiaowin to verify everything in ProQuest and everything in GradSphere, um, is is going to be probably a little bit quicker than if you're submitting like on December 13th or December 13th. If you're submitting closer to the deadline, you can expect 2 to 3 weeks to get your control letter. Remember that if we find any edits, we're going to email you. If we find edits after the 13th, because obviously we're getting hundreds on the 13th of December, we get through those one by one, and we may not contact you until like December 15th. It's completely fine. You've still made the deadline. You're still going to be on that degree list. Um, and some of the common edits that we find is we just want to make sure that everything in your dissertation or thesis in ProQuest is within the 1 inch margins, that every page is numbered, that very first page is the unsigned title page. Um, and that's basically it. We're just looking for very, very minor formatting edits. We're not looking for any content related edits. And so whatever we find is going to be pretty minimal. We'll email you, we'll let you know, and you'll make those edits and then we'll approve it. And so it does just depend on the timing of when you submit everything, because I know that everyone is really, really anxiously waiting for the approval email from us, which contains that conferral letter. And the conferral letter is that first document that lets you and everyone around you know, particularly for jobs and stuff, that you've actually completed everything, that you're done, that you've graduated. And so I know a lot of students are really anxiously awaiting that, and Jawin does an amazing, phenomenal job on getting those out as fast as she can. But again, it is a very uh, manual process. If there's any kind of extenuating circumstances, you can always reach out to your assigned senior academic and talk to Jaiwen on the side, but we typically go in order of received. So the sooner you want your conferral letter, I would say try to submit it prior by a couple of weeks to the actual deadline if you can. Otherwise, just expect a 2 to 3 week turnaround time. So I hope that helps, Sam. Um, Now we're going to move into the master's. So any student on here who's an MFA student or a Plan 2, so you're going to be a student that takes an exam at the end. You're not going to be submitting a thesis or a dissertation. We're going to talk now about that. So any MFA or master plan students, I hope there's some of you on this call. If you're here, that's great because there are 2 steps that you have to complete as well, or to make sure that are completed. You have 1 step, and then your committee chair has another step. In order for you to graduate, we've had some issues with students that are Plan 2 or MFA, because this filing process in GradSphere is kind of new for you. And so we just want to make sure that you understand that you do have to take action as a student to graduate. In GradSphere. Every student on this call, no matter where you are, if you're PhD, thesis, MFA, or Master Plan 2, every single one of you has to take action within GradSphere in order to graduate. And so you, as a Master's Plan 2 or MFA student, have to submit a filing process in GradSphere. So it's this blue bar when you log into GradSphere. It's titled filing process, and you have to submit that in GradSphere. We'll go over what that looks like. And then your chair or your coordinator also has to submit that final report in GradSphere. Um, and so they have to take action and submit that final report to let us know that you actually passed that final exam. And both of these steps have to be completed. So the filing process in GradSphere by the student, and then the final report that is in GradSphere that needs to be submitted by your chair or your coordinator. Both of those steps have to be completed by our filing deadline of December 13th, which is our next one, by 5 p.m. So this is what GradSphere looks like. So when you log into GradSphere, you're going to see a bunch of stuff. You kind of scroll down to the bottom under degree completion, and you'll see a blue bar, and it says filing process. And you, as an MFA or Master's Plan 2 student, has to actually go through this process very quickly and submit it. It's really easy. But you have to input your student ID or your email, and then it'll auto-populate the rest of this information. The degree pathway should say MS Plan 2, or if you're an MFA student, and then your intended graduation quarter, the dropdown will be fall quarter 2024. The candidacy question, you're going to want to say yes. You want to make sure that you've actually submitted a candidacy. Talk to your program coordinator before you graduate to make sure, have I advanced to candidacy? Very important. You have plenty of time to start that conversation now. But in order to graduate, every student has to have submitted a candidacy to us. And so you're going to answer yes here. Coursework check-in, you want to make sure that you check yes, it has. And then this Master's Plan 2 report, it's a little confusing with this little portion right here. If you have a copy of your Master's Plan report that indicates when you actually passed the exam, you could submit it here. Either way, if you submit it or not, let's just say you upload a blank document. kind of a little glitch within GradSphere because ultimately, even if you submit this master's report plan to us that shows you passed the final exam, um, the official report has to actually be submitted separately from you by your chair or your coordinator. Um, and so for you, if you have access to that report that says you passed the exam, you could submit it here, but your coordinator or chair still has to separately submit that report from you, separately from you in GradSphere. If you don't have access to the report, that's totally fine. Then you would wonder, what would I put here? We've told students just to put like a blank document, or type in the day that you passed the exam on a Word document and upload that here. Either way, whatever you submit here, someone from your department, either your chair or coordinator, has to take a separate action and go into GradSphere themselves to submit that official final report to let us know that you actually passed the exam. Um, Graduate academic certificate, most of you are not going to have this. If you have no idea what this is and you've never heard of it, you're going to say, no, I do not. Most of you are going to click, I do not. Then you're going to put in your future contact information, and then you're going to click review and then submit. And again, this page is particularly for you as a student to remind people within your program, so your chair or your coordinator, that they have to actually take action in GradSphere and submit this master report plan into GradSphere so that we can see from the program level that you've passed this exam. So once it's submitted, it'll first be routed to a program advisor, and then it comes to our office electronically in GradSphere. Students will get notified when the report is approved, and you can find the approved copy in My Application in GradSphere. We need to receive the master report in order to graduate you. For us to receive this master's report, it's not really your responsibility to upload because the program has to do it, but it is your responsibility to make sure that you're advocating for yourself to make sure that your program is doing what they need to do within GradSphere. And that's kind of where we've seen some issues where either faculty members or certain people within the program forget to go into GradSphere. So as a student, whether you're PhD, thesis, wherever you're at, someone in your program has to go into GradSphere for every filing and click on some type of approval for you. And so we just are looking for you to help advocate for yourself to make sure that everyone in your program that's, getting the GradSphere portion to approve knows it and completes that process for you so that we can finally get it. Okay. Now we're coming back to everyone here on the call. I see some people dropped off, which is fine because we're recording this. And we're going to get to some more questions later too. We're almost done, and then we can open this up to questions as well. So for every student on the call, you've completed your 2 steps. For a PhD student, those 2 steps are uploading your thesis and dissertation to ProQuest and then submitting your filing process in GradSphere. If you're a master's plan 2 or an MFA, you've submitted your filing process in GradSphere, and someone in your department, either your chair or your coordinator, has submitted that final report to show us that you've passed your exam. So once you've done those both steps, now you're anxiously awaiting for that conferral letter and that approval email. And again, we just ask for your patience, especially if you're submitting closer to the deadline, because we have one person in charge of this, and it's a pretty overwhelming situation to be in because you have sometimes 400 to 500 students that are submitting. And there's one person processing all of this to then get you that email confirmation and that conferral letter. And so we are notified once you upload everything into ProQuest. We're looking in there every day. We're communicating with you. We're checking everything in ProQuest and in GradSphere, and we're making sure that everything's linked up for you to graduate. And then it's just one by one in order of received. And we send you that wonderful email that contains that degree conferral letter. And that conferral letter is what you're going to be using to like show jobs and your family and for yourself to see like this is actually official and done. Within that email, there's also information on how you can request to get the actual diploma. So the first level of conferral that you're done and you're approved and that you have something to show people that you're done is that an email from us with the conferral letter. After that, 8 weeks later, you could request a degree verification with the registrar's office. Now, all of this information is going to be in our email that we send you. So this will be in the email. So first comes that degree conferral letter from us. And then in the email, there's also information. Let's say 2 months later, you want that official transcript that says degree awarded. It does take 8 weeks for it to flip over to degree awarded. But let's say you wanted to see that official transcript that shows the degree awarded. You can request that, I would say, like at least 2 months after you graduate. So December 13th, that would be like mid to late February, you could request from the registrar's office a degree awarded transcript if you wanted that. It's not required, but sometimes students want that. And then the last level is the actual diploma, the wonderful diploma that you're going to get matted and framed and put on the wall of your office one day. That takes much longer. That takes about 3 to 4 months. So first comes the letter from us, then you could get that transcript, then you could, within that email as well, when we're emailing you the conferral letter, there's information on how to obtain that actual diploma, and you sign up for it, and the registrar's office sends it to you about 3 to 4 months later. So it does take quite a bit to get the actual diploma. Um, One other thing that we offer is an in-person bell ringing ceremony, which is a lot of fun. Once we've sent that degree conferral letter to you, boom, you're open to come in and do the bell ringing. You can request that appointment online, or you can work with your SAA. Sometimes students are like, oh, I can't find the right time to do the in-person bell ringing, but I really want to do it at this day and time. We'll work with you. But the in-person bell ringing is here in Walker Hall. And a lot of times students bring their family and friends, or maybe just their lab mates or their PI, whoever. Sometimes students come alone. Doesn't matter. If you want to do it, it's optional. It's a lot of fun. You can take pictures. We give you an alumni pin. You ring a bell. It's kind of one step in the direction of celebrating. And that is always an option for you to do if you want at any time after you've received that conferral letter from us. And then the commencement ceremony, I think I have a slide on that. Yes, is separate from actually graduating. So you just have to have advanced to candidacy by the deadline of you signing up for commencement. We only have commencement once a year. Our next one is going to be on June 12th of 2025. When we open up that registration period, now I'm going off of what we did last year and the years before. Things could change. But in general, once we open up that registration period where you're like, yes, I want to participate in commencement, you don't have to actually have graduated or filed, but you do have to have advanced to candidacy in order to participate in commencement, which does take place on June 12th, 2025. Again, this is what we had last year's the criteria of how can I participate in commencement? Like, what are the eligibility requirements? I'm hoping they'll still be the same. So don't quote me on this, even though we're recording it. Um, Hopefully the eligibility requirements are still the same. But commencement is not something we look at to make sure you filed and that you've uploaded everything into ProQuest and GradSphere. It's more about have you advanced to candidacy, during the frame of when you can sign up for commencement. Again, it's only once a year. That's why a lot of students will usually do commencement, but they also do the bell ringing if they can't make the commencement. But from what I've been told, it's on our calendar. It could change. I doubt it, but we've been slated that it's June 12th, 2025. It's at the University Credit Union Center. Last year we had two separate ceremonies. I don't know if that's the way we're moving forward with it this year. It worked pretty well, I thought, with the two different ceremonies. That way it didn't last as long. But if you have any questions about this, because our team is not orchestrating or really in charge of the commencement, we're definitely there and working there. But if you have specific questions or you need that 100% verification, I would just send an email to them, and they'll respond to any questions that you have. Okay, so I think I'm done talking. And now I have no idea what's going on in the chat, but I think can people unmute themselves if they have questions, or we can just keep looking in the chat and maybe addressing things verbally, Sam
Yeah,
or
so
Jaywin?
I've seen a lot of questions about when do we get the conferral letter, etc. So to reiterate, your conferral letter is received once we have officially processed and made sure that everything is done for filing. And the timeline for that is usually 2 to 3 weeks after you have submitted. Um, so your conferral letter is a letter that we send out that says, hey, your degree is going to be awarded on whatever the respective date is for this quarter. I believe it's December 13th, right?
It's the same
Um,
day of our filing deadline, which is kind of
exactly.
confusing.
So it will say that date on your conferral letter. It will notify you that whatever employer or whatever opportunity you're taking advantage of says your degree will be awarded on December 13th. Um, and keep in mind too that even once you receive your conferral letter, you may be regularly checking your OASIS record or your transcripts to see, oh, when is that done? The registrar's office moves at a different pace than we do, right? So that processing and your degree being notified in your transcript and in your student record won't happen till usually a couple of months after the filing deadline and you receive your conferral letter. That letter is a holdover verifying that you're done, that you are a doctor or have completed your master's. But the registrar has to then process everything separately. We send our list of graduates over to them and they formally file to graduate everybody in their system. So um, just keep that in mind in terms of timing.
Okay.
Um,
I have a question. Is the June 12th PhD graduation for all disciplines? Yes. That deadline, it doesn't matter what discipline you're in.
exactly.
If you're wanting to graduate in the spring, the deadline is June 12th. Um, I see another question about expedited degree awarding. Oh my goodness, this topic. Um, I think we have something, maybe we could put in the chat, the website about our expedited degree
hmm
awarding, but there's like a very small specific window that you can request this. And
And
Nicole,
we only allow it with documentation, meaning that you've had
yes,
an employer or somebody say we have to have it by whatever the date is, otherwise you can't be working, etc. So thank you so much, Jawen. She just put it in the chat, but it's not something that we just do. We have to have
justification. Yeah.
justification and verification that it is required, and you'll be missing out on an opportunity or whatever it may be in order for us to go through the process of expediting. Because what that looks like on the back end is we are sending your individual name to the registrar to award your degree and update your transcript ASAP. You do not go on the main grad list. We push you through separately in a manual process. So it is only specific. And the date on the diploma, again, is going to be that December 13th, last day of instruction date, saying that that's the day that you finish, that's the day that you've graduated. And filing fee. So for filing fee, your dissertation should be the writing portion should be complete. No additional research, no additional, um, main content being edited. The only things that the committee allows for filing fee is like maybe your acknowledgments page isn't completed, or you need to do page numbers, or you need to work on your headers, etc. No main research can be completed and finished. We only allow formatting things during the filing fee quarter.
Yeah, and so a lot of our students are not on filing fee just because, so I'll use winter as an example.
hmm
So let's say you missed our December 13th deadline, but you really are done writing your dissertation by like January 1st, like you're done. You just have to kind of gather up all of the documents you need to actually file and graduate. And you don't want to be registered in 12 units for the winter, but you want to file and submit in the winter. As long as you're done with your dissertation, writing, all of it, that's basically just done. And you're just kind of gathering up the required paperwork for filing. And you can get all of your committee members to sign off on the filing fee form by our deadline, which is very early. It's the first day of instruction of every term. So if you want to
Hmm.
be on filing fee for winter, you have to submit all of that to us by January 6th, which is the first day of
Hmm.
instruction. If we approve it and we get verification from all your committee members and you show proof that you have no more writing to do, we can approve you for filing fee for the winter quarter. And you're not registered or anything, but you're on filing fee. And then you could submit your actual dissertation and all the grad sphere paperwork anytime throughout that winter quarter. But I
And
would
you
say,
still will
yeah,
be an active student on
yes,
filing fee till the end of the quarter.
yes.
Even if you submit the third day of the quarter, you have that active student status through the entire quarter because, like I said, we don't send our grad list to the registrar to finish you out and complete your degree until the quarter's over, and usually about 3 to 5 weeks after the quarter ends.
Yeah.
So that student status will stay there for the entire quarter.
One other thing I was going to mention too is that just in general, I don't think we mentioned this, but once you submit everything in grad sphere and in ProQuest, like unfortunately, there's no like reassurance email that you get as a student saying, thank you for submitting everything. We received your submission. And that's, I think, what causes a lot of anxiety for
Hmm.
students because they don't get like this confirmation email with like a confirmation number that they've submitted everything. Um, so just know that as long as you have taken those 2 steps by our deadline, you're good to go.
Hmm.
It's just us getting in order of receive to your factual filing to then start opening up communication with you. I
Hmm.
hope that that helps with the anxiety that takes place.
And then I see one question about safeguards or
Oh,
mechanisms if a committee member you feel like is holding up your dissertation filing. Um, check in with our office, check in with your coordinator and your program chair. Make sure that there are people aware of the situation so that we can support you and see if there's anything that can be done to help you in that process. As always, make an appointment with our office and make sure that we're aware of the situation. And maybe even consider meeting with Ellen Hardigan O'Connor, our Associate Dean of Students, because she also can reach out on your behalf and figure out what's going on too.
yeah, definitely feel free to reach out to one of your essay, like either me, Sam, or Brittany,
Hmm.
whoever your assigned SAA is.
Hmm.
We could definitely set up a Zoom to talk about that because that's a stressful situation to be in, if that's what's going
Exactly.
on. That's a great question. Exit seminar that can be after filing fee. And can we have the link for tuition expense of filing fee? So filing fee is it 190?
I
192?
believe it's 193, but it's about,
193.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's all you're paying is just the
Hmm.
filing fee. You're not paying for any like tuition. It's just the
Tuitions, yeah.
filing fee of 193 for the application. And that is a great question. Do you have to have the exit seminar completed?
I would check with your program because so that you just so that you all are aware, our office does not have an exit seminar. We have the exit surveys, but we do not oversee and or regulate any exit seminars that are required by your program. So check in with your program coordinator if there is an exit seminar that is required of you. Make sure that you're checking in with them about the timing of that and when it needs to be done, et cetera. We don't even require exit surveys for master students. It's only the
Mm,
PhD students that are filing that have exit surveys. And those are purely about your experience in research and your experience of being a grad student at UC Davis. So just keep in mind that you should be checking in with your program about anything relating to the exit process, because they may have their own individual requirements before they sign off on any paperwork that you may have.
I also see something about UC ship. If you're on filing fee, I think you have to actually take action to sign up for ship if you're on
Yes,
filing fee. So the UC ship will not be automatically there. If you're on
exactly.
filing fee, if you're going on filing fee, you have to take action to sign up for UC ship if you want that.
Hmm.
Um, and then if you pay for filing fee, can you still work as a TA? And the last I heard
No.
was no, you cannot.
You cannot be filing fee as a holdover status for you to make any adjustments to your paperwork and your dissertation, etc. You are not allowed to be a TA or a GSR, or be employed with the university unless you're like full-time staff, etc. But you're not allowed to be a TA or a GSR on filing fee. And as Sarah mentioned, filing fee is unique. We can put the link in the chat below, but it's not something that is a good fit for everybody. It's just an option that you can review and consider and see if it would work for you in your personal circumstances with respect to health insurance, employment, etc. So it is a holdover status that we have for those students that are done, aren't working, and don't need any, maybe don't need student health insurance, and just want to file quickly and be finished as soon as they can. But the implication for filing fee is that you are not using considerable amount of faculty resources or time. You are not employed, and you are not, you have an active student status just for the purposes of filing,
Mhm.
but the university is not carrying you in terms of employment, funding, etc. Um,
Yeah, the
so,
question for Diego, yeah, the proof would be that conferral letter you received from us, um, or the academic training. So the
mhm,
proof of thesis submission, that would, they're going to want that conferral letter
mhm,
that we will give you once we approve everything that you've submitted.
yep,
Um, if I have a GSR appointment and after I get approval for filing fee and then give up the GSR, is that okay? I would say to talk
to your program.
to your program,
Hmm.
or our financial team
Yes,
as
yeah.
well. Um, Definitely. I think we need to have a webinar on filing fee.
Yeah, that our plan is
That's our
to
next goal.
provide that as well, because we've done them in the past. Our director of advising has done a filing fee webinar in the past. So keep a lookout on our website, and it will be posted on the filing. It's usually posted on the how to file portion of our webpage. So we will try to get connected with Sarah Driver and see if there's something we can do to provide more information about it.
And we are recording this.
Mhm.
We will post the recording on our website, for you or students to refer to if they want to go back. We also have another one coming up on Wednesday, November 20th from 2 p.m.
Mhm.
to 3 p.m. So same format, same information, but if you want to come back, you can. And you can
Yeah.
also always reach out to us individually through email, or you can make a Zoom appointment or meet with us in
Mhm.
person. We're in Walker Hall. If you have specific things or just you need more reassurance about any of this,
Yeah.
we can meet with you at any time.
Thank you so much,
But thank
everyone. I
you.
think we're over our time. So feel free to reach out to us in our appointment system and individually if you do not feel like your specific questions were answered. But we appreciate your time and you all being here, and good luck with filing whenever you decide to do that. Congrats on this big next step that's coming up.
Thank you so
And
much.
enjoy Halloween if you are all celebrating this week. It's going to be hectic. Thank you. Have a good one. Let's see here.
Wonder if I should just end it and then,
Yeah, I would end the
okay,
recording.
I'm
Mhm.
gonna end this.